What's up, guys? This is your boy Josh. I'm take back again with another video today, guys. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the 5.4k views on our last video, which was uploaded a long while back. So today, guys, I'm just making a comeback for this year. Been very busy, so haven't had a chance to make a video. But this video is going to be a podcast with a fellow YouTuber slash game developer from Anan Studios. He's currently creating an amazing game. I will link all his channel down in the description. It just shows the progress of how to create a game of your own, for example, and how he is designing his game in a way that may be pleasing to the eye to you guys. So I'll link it down in the description with his Twitter also, which he uploads daily or weekly updates on his game, and he's also going to be uploading other games content about game development and playing games with his friends. So guys, we'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. Before I say goodbye, it's going to be in a 3-part episode since it was a very long podcast. But guys, bear with me with uploads because they will be starting again. So thanks guys, peace. What's up guys, it's your boy Johnson Ground Tech back again with another video. And today guys, before we get into the video, if you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. We're getting so much closer to 1,000 subscribers. Just carry on subscribing, and if you like this video, make sure you like. And today we're going to be discussing what's next for Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch. So today guys, we're going to carry on discussing what the competition have released, the information that has come through in regards to the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation and Sony, which are hosting an event either tomorrow or in the coming future. They released something on their Twitter not long ago, talking about an event being held to explain more about the PS5 that's coming out. But we have to come to realize that the Nintendo isn't competing against Sony and Microsoft in their current markets, going for power and performance. They're looking at a different market, and what I've been seeing online and what's been surfacing online is Nintendo Switch Pro. But I want to bring someone to talk more about this in depth, and I would like to invite Micah on the podcast to speak about this and explain why. Yes, I'm good. Nice to have you on the podcast. Exactly. Yes, indeed. So, Micah, in regards to Nintendo and their status on how they're competing against Xbox, Microsoft, and PlayStation with Sony, what's your take on that? What's your opinion on these situations that's happening within the console industry at the moment?
Yeah, well, as regards whether or not Microsoft and Sony are competing with Nintendo, well, the way I see it is that yes, they are competing, and no at the same time. Yes, they are competing by default in the same way they're also competing with PCs as well. In the vein that at the end of the day, they're releasing games on there and people are choosing which games they want to get, etc. But then there's the case of at the same time they're not competing with each other because they advertise themselves a lot differently. So like with Nintendo, as you said before, Nintendo is less about the power and more about, you know, what they can bring to the table as regards gameplay or how you play the games. So obviously with the Switch, it's got the advantage of it being a portable device in it. Whereas, you know, with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, it's more like, you know, mini PCs and things like that, or like soft PCs in a sense. So like they're competing with the PCs on that end, but at the same time they're not competing with the PCs because with PCs, it's, you know, it's all about, you know, the specs and stuff like that. Whereas with Xbox and PlayStation, it's about convenience. You know, you get the game, you put it in, you play, done. You don't have to worry about, you know, installing anything and stuff like that. Or at least you didn't. But, you know, nowadays you got to update all the time, innit? Which I don't like. But what about you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I fully agree with all things you've been saying, because as we look into the industry more, Xbox and PlayStation, Sony and Microsoft have been pushing to essentially make console PCs in a sense that push power and push innovation, whereas Nintendo are taking a more laid-back approach and looking less towards power, more towards what software is bringing onto these less powered consoles. For example, when they released the Switch, they paired it with a crazy game, for example Zelda, and that had an attach rate of more than 70%. So everyone who was buying a Switch was buying the Zelda with the Switch because of the game itself. So we don't know how this will affect Nintendo in the long run, if they're going to use that same strategy, and what they're going to be doing next. Because if Microsoft and Sony are releasing this console, do you think Nintendo will release a console this year themselves?
If not this year, next year. I'm not 100% convinced that it's going to be a new console per se, but I do think that by the latest they'll release a new console by 2022 or 2023. Because was it 2027? Was it 2017 that the Switch came out?
Yes, 2017.
So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 5 years. Now Nintendo usually have a 5 to 6 year cycle when it comes to their consoles, which is why I said that they'll definitely be releasing something around 2022, probably at the earliest, and 23 at the latest.
Okay. Yeah. Because as we know, like, there has been information surfacing about the upcoming Switch Pro that's been surfacing on the internet. Do you think?
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Do you think that the Switch Pro is something that they're looking at, or is that just rumors that people have been circulating around?
Well, as regards the rumors, because it was rumored that a new version of the Switch was coming last year. A lot of people called it the Switch Pro, and it ended up being the
Switch Lite.
Yeah, the Switch Lite.
Yeah.
Now, those same kind of rumors have surfaced up again, but a lot of it is from the same source. So it is possible that they could be releasing something this year or next year. But I think, as regards, I don't want to confuse it with what they should do. I think they might do, and if they do have a Switch Pro coming, it will either be this year or next year, and not later, because it'll be too late if they do it later. So, like, as regards what they should do, in my opinion, they should definitely release a Switch Pro this year, simply because Microsoft and Sony are releasing their consoles. I don't think Nintendo should be releasing a new console, and I don't think they will anyway, but they should be releasing something that will distract them from the Microsoft and Sony, because even though, yeah, sure, they're not competing with each other, in a sense, they're still counted as a home console. So when people are shopping for Christmas and stuff like that, or holidays, or whatever, people are going to look at, what do I want to spend my money on? They're not going to spend it on both a Switch Pro or a Switch and a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So yeah, sorry, Karen, what were you going to say?
I think when you on the lines of how you said that they need to release something now to distract the competitors, I think that's needed for them to stay at where that now with the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
It released a lot later than its competitors.
Yeah.
In terms of competing against the Xbox One and the PS4, and it beat the sales of the Xbox One.
It did, yeah.
In a very small time.
Yeah.
I think it reached 14.7 million in its second quarter of its first physical year of release. But what do you think they're going to do in terms of the Pro? Because are they going to make the dock something that accelerates GPU for performance across the board? Or do you think they're going to make a whole new console and the dock's going to be the same hollow piece of plastic it is?
Well, I think if he was going to do a Switch Pro, I wouldn't make the Switch itself like that much more powerful, so that you can keep the price quite close to what the Switch is now, if you know what I'm saying. So like keep it like around that price range. Like if it's going to be more expensive, don't make it like £100 more expensive. Make it like a lot closer, because and then have it where the dock is a thing that drastically improves the graphics, because we've got the technology now to do that, don't we? I mean, I remember you talking about it before, wasn't you? About what they could do to improve the graphics with the dock.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the USB Type C port, if they change that to a Thunderbolt 3 port, that can have a bandwidth for 40 gigabytes per second.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it gigabytes or megabytes? I think it's gigabytes. But 40 gigabytes per second will allow it to have the enough bandwidth to pass through enough information, as a for example, an add-on GPU or an enhanced CPU to increase the performance of the Nintendo Switch. So it's very doable in that sense. But that's the problem, where if they pre-shipped every Nintendo Switch with a Thunderbolt port, Thunderbolt port capabilities, wouldn't it give them the ability to go, okay, Xbox, Microsoft or Sony are releasing their consoles, here's a new dock with enhanced performance that can beat out the Xbox and Sony's consoles.
Well, I don't think they'll go that far as in to actually to actually fully compete with them as regards the graphics. I think they're doing the right thing by not trying to compete with them, but I do think if they do improve it, just simply improvement of frame rate and things such as that is what will get people's eye, especially for like the more gamer people who they like gaming on gaming on the dock itself. Like, I mean, personally, I do that a lot as well. But and then use the portable for convenience, especially people with families and stuff like that. Like sometimes it's like, the family's not around or they're not using the TV. Let me just dock it in. You know what I'm saying? Oh, look how much better this looks. But the family come in, let me take it out, and let me just play on the Pro instead. The graphics are a bit better, but they're not that much better than the normal Switch. But as soon as you dock it, it obviously ups what do you call it? When you're playing like a PC game, and you can make it. It ups the settings basically.
Yeah, it gives the ability to play at a better frame and better quality. Yeah, you could just improve the visual fidelity and stuff like that. I think that would be good enough, really, for what they need to do, because Nintendo have done this in the past a lot. I know the Switch is quite different compared to the last consoles, because instead of it just being a console, it's a portable. But instead of it just being a portable, it's a home console. So it's both at the same time. Exactly. But and with the home consoles, they generally don't release new models. Generally, I mean, I think for the Wii they did. They had a couple of models for the Wii, but they didn't really have that much for the N64 or for the GameCube or for the. I think they did for the Super Nintendo. No, they did for the Nintendo Entertainment System, but I don't think they did for the Super Nintendo. So basically, what you got is what you get is what you're gonna have. Whereas with their portables, after the Game Boy Color, you had the Game Boy Advance, then you had the Game Boy Mini, then with the Nintendo DS, you got the Nintendo DS, then the DSi, then the DS Lite. Same with the 3DS. You had the 3DS, you had the 2DS, then you had the 3DS XL. You know what I'm saying? And you had the new 3DS as well. I forgot about the new 3DS and the new 3DS XL, where you had the extra the thumb thing for the second analog stick. So they could basically do the same thing with the Switch. It's like, I mean, they've already got the Switch Lite, so they're already doing it already. And Nintendo do release models quite close to each other when it comes to new models. So like the new 3DS XL didn't come. I think they come out at the same time as the new 3DS, I think, which didn't come out that later than the previous model as well. So I think if there was to do something like that, it would probably be this year. And they probably should do it, and it would make sense, because Nintendo know how to brand their portables. They might have had like a bit of a mishap by branding the Wii U, but as it goes to other consoles, they have quite a good idea of how to brand it. So I think it would do quite well in the market, and it will make the Switch more relevant, because I think this year the Switch might descend into irrelevancy, to be fair. Really? I don't think that's the case.
Well, not irrelevancy, but it will become less relevant, because people will be when it comes to games, people will be talking about the Xbox and the PlayStation.
Exactly, because they carry a lot of weight in terms of how much third-party companies want to make games for these consoles, because they have the power and they have the compatibility.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like as well is the fact that with these new consoles, it's going to be fast loading, because they're putting the new. I'm terrible with the specs. You know what I'm on about. The specs that makes things load boot up faster and stuff like that.
New CPU, they're actually increasing the RAM slightly. But with the new CPUs, they can offload information to the SSD.
Yeah.
And hold that information in the SSD and almost use the SSD as a RAM module.
Yeah.
So even though for example, in the case of the Xbox One, Xbox X Series
X, yeah.
Series X, sorry. It can offload its information onto the hard drive, SSD, and hold information on there. For example, when you're in game, you can switch over to another game and it will still save your information. There's stuff like that the Switch won't have.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like developers like that because they can make games with fast loading. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because one of the things with CDs and stuff like that is the loading times at the end of the day. The amount of information that they have to process within a short amount of time. To get around that, they've been installing stuff onto the hard drives. So whenever we get a game, like you probably on the disc is probably just half the game. The rest of it you need to download, and it's from Xbox Live or PSN, so you can play the game properly. Because you know it wants to. Because again, it takes ages to load things on disc sometimes. But with this new tech that they want to put it on there, again, it'll be a lot better for people to make games. I know Nintendo won't be able to do something that's fully on par, but they should be doing something that will make it better, so that developers won't look at the Switch and think, "Oh, I guess I just got to put this on there." Because so far, the developers actually liked putting things on the Switch. So far,
yeah, exactly.
It's so easier. But with
the problem is,
yes, I can.
But the problem is, we are not getting as much as PS4 and the likes of Microsoft are getting.
Yeah.
Which would be nice, because then it will broaden the market, and then because Nintendo have all the same games that the Xbox One and the Xbox and the PlayStation 5 has and the Series X has, people will go, okay, so I can play this on the go, but whereas I'm stuck to my TV at home on my Xbox. You see, that's where I'm thinking, how can Nintendo implement increased power during docked mode and have it where games are dubbed down instantly when taken out of docked mode, and they can carry on from the same level? It won't be graphically amazing, but it'll be playable at a decent frame rate at that. And if they think about releasing a whole new Switch like they did with the Lite, and releasing a whole new Switch with the same form and same body, where it can utilize all the other accessories that the current Switch has, but it just has the new architecture of chip from the likes of AMD or Nvidia, I think it could boost them in terms of sales and in terms of people wanting to carry on buying the Switch and purchasing the Switch rather than buying the new PlayStation 5 and Series X.
Yeah. On that note of it, again, like going back to when you was talking about Microsoft and Sony competing with each other, because I do remember this article. I just got it back up. This is from last month, where basically what's his name, Phil Spencer, basically says that Sony and Nintendo aren't their main competitor. And
then who is?
Basically, he to him, it's really Amazon and Google that are his main competitor.
Why? Because when you look at the market, Amazon aren't jumping into that market segment just yet. They will jump into streaming.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
And so is Google.
Because Microsoft want to jump into streaming now, don't they? So they're doing that. Is it X Live or something like that? I can't remember what it's called now. X Cloud, something called X Cloud or something like that. Yes. And basically Phil Spencer dismisses like Sony and Nintendo's ability to create a cloud infrastructure that could challenge Microsoft. but he's looking at Google and Amazon. Now, personally, I have a lot of thoughts about that, but like, I can see what he's saying because he thinks that the future is cloud and stuff like that. But you know, that's the cloud world, and Sony and Nintendo don't seem to be. They seem to have kind of like an interest in it, but they're only like kind of dipping their toe in there, kind of a little bit. They're not like, you know, trying to dive in like Microsoft is planning on doing eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Phil Spencer says, and I quote, "Ultimately, that's the goal." What do you think of that?
Because it doesn't make sense. Why put so much money and R&D into creating the Xbox Series X for them then to turn around and go, okay, we are going to stream games now?
Yeah, it possibly won't be with the beginning of the Series X, because the Xbox Series X isn't a console. It's a line of consoles in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's going to be like a Series X,
Series
Y,
Series S. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be like a Series X 20FY, Series X P140, Series X 101,000. I don't know how 10,1000 is a number.
It could go crazy like that. Yeah, exactly.
That's what they're going to do with it. And I think eventually they're going to try and get it so that the cloud thing can work.
Yeah.
Personally,
exactly.
I have... Oh, Karen, what are you going to say?
Because you remember when they made the discless Xbox S?
Yeah.
It made no sense. When you look at what they're trying to do now, it makes perfect sense. Because everything they won't need to buy discs. Everything will be cloud based, so they can access games off the cloud, download games off the cloud.
So I think
for offline mode.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna do that with the Series X at some point. Because it looks like a PC box, doesn't it?
Well, it looks exactly like certain models of a PC, because it's not like it's not some new design. Like a bunch of PCs have had this design before. Exactly. I can't remember their names, but to be honest, I don't mean to rip on Microsoft at the moment, but that console looks terrible to me. It's too mediocre and bland. There's nothing on it. It's just a box. I think they took the box too far. They just actually made a black box, because there are PCs that have the same Bluetooth speaker design but look better. Like it's actually got a design on it and stuff like that. I'm sure people in the comments will be able to list some examples of PCs that are just like this.
Exactly. Because like my PC case is literally called the Cube.
Okay.
It's literally a cube.
Yeah.
But it looks sexy on the inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's got lights. It's got
exactly.
You can see into it. But the Xbox Series X has got an illusion on the top that makes things look green, but it's really not green. And it's a square box that's literally black and has no life. Yeah,
it's just a black box. It looks like. No, I won't say that, but it looks terrible, basically. Now, what I was gonna say was, it looks like a building,
and it's a trash can.
I was gonna say it looks like a building.
Exactly.
It looks like a
exactly
supervillain
like a
building. The big black building where like all the supervillains like do their diabolical plans or something. That's what it looks like, man. It annoys me. I like the concept and the fact that, you know, it's ventilation system. Where like it can circulate the air and stuff like that. I like that.
Yeah, but don't you think that's taken from its competitor in a sense of Apple's use of their air intake system? Because that's what Apple done with their belated bin iMac. And they literally put a fan on top which circulated air all through every single chipset. The GPU, the actual CPU, the RAM, and everything was cooled by one fan. I think Microsoft took a couple of things from them and turned it into the Xbox Series X, as it's called now.
Most likely, yeah. I mean, that's probably the future, the way consoles are gonna work in it. I think with them, they might be trying to do the same thing with the PlayStation 5. I haven't looked at any news, so have they revealed the case yet, or just the specs?
No. Judging by a live that was meant to happen today, didn't happen. Because I was on the radar. They announced something on Twitter. Something was going to happen today. IGN went up live, started talking about it prior to the event.
A couple of other YouTube channels started talking prior to the event, but literally nothing happened. When looking at the tweet that they shot out yesterday, it literally said that it would happen at a certain time. Today it didn't happen, so hence why it could be coming in the latest future. Current events that happen around the world today may be the reason why it's been pushed back a little. But yeah, as I said, if I mention the word you know what I'm saying, I get videos.
The wolf.
Yeah, the Wuhan flu. There you go, Wuhan flu. But yeah, do you think that the PlayStation are playing it smart? Sony are playing it smart in the sense of keeping everything quiet, letting Xbox release everything,
well, I think,
and hope for the best.
If I was in charge, I would make sure that I know that the things that are ready to be shown, that are not ready to be shown, the things that are not ready to be shown, wait for it to be ready to be shown. Because at the end of the day, this is a video games console. Honestly, personally, I don't care about the specs too much or the look of the console. The reason why I do ask about the look of the console is because at least I know it's going somewhere. At least I know they're close to actually showing something. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, what I care about the most, though, to be fair, is the video games. If the video games are ready to be shown, then show it. If the video games aren't ready to be shown, wait until they're ready to be shown. You know what I'm saying? Don't show me a bunch of FMV or a bunch of CGI or a bunch of tech demos. I don't want to see no tech demos. I want to see games. I want to see what actually happens. I don't want to see what's going to happen 4 years into the future when games actually start looking like that. I want to see what's going to look like, what games are going to look like right now. You know what I mean?
That's the problem with current industries. They're pushing all this, saying all this and that, but it's not real. They're pushing these graphics on PC hardware that's currently existent, not on consoles that are currently existent. In the likes of the Xbox Series X, when watching a video by one of another fellow YouTuber, he got a chance to explore what Xbox is doing in terms of ray tracing. They're exploring ray tracing, which will allow the Xbox Series X to enhance graphics in the light areas of a game. For example, with fire, it would enhance the fire to make it look more realistic. It would enhance surfaces to make it look more realistic. It would enhance light, and where light comes from, make it look more realistic. There's the likes of Halo in the demonstration that I was watching. All the parts that were lit and had light on it was getting upgraded in terms of graphics due to this ray tracing. But Nvidia tried that with the RTX range of their graphics cards, and it didn't really sell as good as its 10 series graphics card. So what makes you think that the Xbox One will sell consoles because it has this so-called feature that wasn't really that good and isn't really important in certain games?
I mean, if they can get it done, then it is an advertisement feature that they can have. If they can't get it done, I don't see much of a point. I think they can get it done somewhat regardless. I don't think it'd be too much of a problem. Or if people can't get it done instantly, they'll eventually learn how to get it done anyway. Exactly. As regards development wise, I do find the PlayStation 5 and the Series X quite interesting, because basically it could help with a lot of games that need to do a lot of tricks in order for stuff to work properly. So say for example, when it says like no loading screens and things like that, well, they want to get rid of. They won't necessarily get rid of loading screens, but they're definitely going to dramatically shorten it. And
but loading screens are there for a reason. They're not. They're there for the computer.
Eventually, I mean, like for games like now, no loading screens could definitely be a thing. But for games in the future, it's probably not going to work as much. It's going to be shorter, no doubt, definitely, because of the tech that they're putting in it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, which would be great. I'm not faulting that in any way. It would definitely be great. and I think I'm excited to see that.